Hi, this is Dr. Richard Ruling, here to welcome you on the Total Health Channel. Thank you for being with us from time to time. Please pay attention this time. This is important stuff. I have come to California to warn people in the Loma Linda area of what I believe is coming in the next couple years. The Day of the Lord is initiated with an earthquake, and they're sitting on the end of the San Andreas Fault. And I'm going to give you a statement from my favorite author, Ellen White, in her book, Testimonies to the Ministers, in which she said there will be a series of events revealing that God is master of the situation. And I'm seeing a series, actually a couple series of events. And the first that marked 2015, and I'm believing that it's a 7-year warning, actually 8-year warning, because Joseph said there'll be 7 good years, and then the bad years will come in the 8th year. And so I want to share a little bit more of that series and why it is not immediate. But we're almost numb to signs, and they seem almost a confused state. Here's a picture that I found on the internet. And if you look at it, there's not much meaning to the picture unless you understand that there is a tiger there. And then you might see his mouth right here, and the eye right here, and the stripes, okay? And this is really about a text in Amos 3, 7, and 8, when God won't do anything without revealing it to his servants. And I've asked dozens of people, pastors, teachers, and so on, what's the next verse? What does he want to reveal? And I have only found one person, actually head of theology at Southern Adventist University, who knew something about a lion's roar, he said. Well, yes, and the Lord is the Lion of Judah, and when he roars, the heavens and earth will shake. And I'm seeing a context that I want to tell you about, but I want you to get the whole story. And first of all, we'll look at the events in 2015. I think we've been looking, let me just say this, that we often find in life what we look for, a seek and you'll find kind of thing. And we're so used to can't know, won't know, never know. You know, we're failing to see scriptures for our time. Those disciples didn't understand, and the Greek word aido means you don't understand, but it's badly translated know, and we somehow think we can't know today. But when the disciples asked Christ in Acts 1:6, will you restore the kingdom to Israel at this time? They wanted to know when, and he said it's not for you to know the signs and the times and seasons. That phrase, times and seasons, in the King James is only used 3 times in the Bible. Once in Daniel 2:21, when God sets up kings and takes them down, so that his response to the disciples was exactly right, but we fail to see the only other place in the Bible where that phrase is found. And Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5:1, of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write, for you know perfectly. Well, I wish we did. Paul was putting himself into the end time when we should know. And 2 verses later is when he says this. And then he gives clues that liken it to the day of the Lord, which is an extension of night of the Lord in Egypt. The phrase night of the Lord is only found 1 time in the Bible, but day of the Lord is the natural extension of night of the Lord. And it comes as a thief in the night, as God did to Egypt, with sudden destruction. Yes, the firstborn was slain. And when they're saying peace and safety, probably Pharaoh was saying that as he urged his chariots into the Red Sea. But as travail on a woman with child was also how Egypt finally gave Israel up. It wasn't a happy experience for them, and childbirth is not always welcomed. But let's just see how the parallels fit for our day, because if you remember, Egypt threw the Israelites' babies in the river, and America has aborted 60 million. Egypt enslaved Israel, and most people in America are in bondage to negative lifestyles. Alcohol, tobacco, prescription drugs are a form of bondage. And we don't have to do that. If we learn to eat better, we could do better, okay? And I'm saying that from a prescription a physician that is board certified internal medicine. So, and I have programs to help that. But anyway, the point is that we can live well if we understand, and God is going to execute judgment on America as he did Egypt. And we're just not seeing the context, because we thought that 1844 was the time of the end, but Gabriel told Daniel the Kazon vision of ram and goat is at the time of the end. The pioneers just didn't look at a concordance to find out what the vision was. They thought the ram and goat had already been fulfilled by Alexander the Great and the Medes and Persians. But the Medes and Persians today are Iraq and Iran. And it's half fulfilled. With Saddam is dead, we're looking forward, I believe, to a war with Iran. And when the Muslims take Jerusalem, as it says in Zechariah 14, 1-3, it will make the goat angry, and he will fight that ram then at that point. We don't want war now, but that's how it will come. But also, the Muslims have this dome on the rock, which has an inscription that says, Allah has no son. Well, the Son of God is also called the Lion of Judah. And it says in Joel 3:16, the Lord will roar from Jerusalem, and the heavens and earth will shake. And those Muslims will flee, it says in verse 5 of Zechariah 14. But if the whole earth is going to shake, I believe and Jerusalem will be destroyed by it. Favorite author again, Ellen White, says that Jerusalem is a representation of what the church will be if it refuses to walk in the light God has given, and she later said, we're not walking in the light. So when we see destruction of Jerusalem, it's for Adventists to prophesy again of an impending judgment, okay? And because if Jerusalem is a representation of the church, and in that context, their city, Loma Linda, is sitting at the end of the San Andreas, and the whole earth shakes. Goodbye, Loma Linda, okay? Ellen White, in Volume 9 of the Testimonies to the Church, page 92, saw buildings, great and small, falling to the ground. Many lives were blotted out. It seemed that the forbearance of God was exhausted and the judgment day had come. Well, I'm here to, if we see trouble in Ezekiel 33, verse 6, we're supposed to warn people or their blood is on our hands. And I don't want blood on my hands. That's why I've come to the Loma Linda area to talk with people, to share the statements, and to make it clear somehow. I have an appointment this afternoon with a pastor, and I pray that somehow he gave a great message Sabbath, but I think we need to focus a little more, and I would just say that Adventism became a movement of destiny in 1844 when they gave messages that didn't fit, but the Lord said to John, typifying them, you must prophesy again. And again means a second time, and the message they had given primarily was the time of judgment. And Ellen White says we are to give with no uncertain sound the message, fear God, give glory to him, the time of his judgment has come. Well, how do we give that message, as she says, with no uncertain sound if we're not certain what it is? And I'm trying to share with you right now how we can know, with the 7 signs, 7 events happened in 2015 that marked that year, and I'll explain in just a little bit, but I'm going to go through the 7s, okay? The series of events that Ellen White says will reveal that God is master of the situation. That's also volume 9, page 96. The point is that in Joel 2:31 it says, the sun will be darkened and the moon turned to blood before the day of the Lord. And the word for before, paniym, means face or facing, so it's about something that's coming soon, right? And in 2015, there was a rare solar eclipse on the equinox, followed by a blood moon on Passover 2 weeks later. And that's 2 signs. Then there was a peace and safety agreement in 2015 with Iran's nuclear treaty. Well, worth about as much as the paper's written on, but just talk. Iran has continued to try to make nuclear weapons, etc. And then Christ also warned, these are when-then signs. When you see it, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction is coming. When you see an abomination, standing where ought not, in Mark 13:14, to flee, to get out of the city. Well, the early believers understood that meant the Roman army. When they saw the Roman army, they got out of the city. Well, we've we've seen an army too. In 2015 was a HELM drill. It stands for Homeland Eradication of Local Militants. It was about a gun grab in Texas. They wanted to see how depriving people of their Second Amendment rights to have a gun would go down. And it wasn't in the media. You didn't hear about it. Media is not telling us all the truth. They tell you what they want you to know, etc. A lot of scripted news releases that sound the same thing from everybody all around the country, but not listening to a few physicians now on what we understand as the shot and the health issues, which Daniel wisely had to reject. He had to turn down health in Daniel 1. The government health care plan was not what he wanted. But anyway, going on with this, we had the sun darkened, moon turned to blood, peace and safety, a military drill. And when you see an abomination standing where ought not, the Bible defines mankind with mankind as an abomination in Leviticus 18, verse 22. But it had standing in the Supreme Court where it ought not. That was the wording of Mark 13, verse 14. And the Pope ought not to be standing in the U.S. Congress. He believes in church and state, not separation. He wants a law so that business will close on Sunday and you can be blessed by the Eucharist. Okay, but the facade that he gives it is save greenhouse gases. He's not worried about the greenhouse gases, but he does want you to attend the Eucharist blessing. Well, that's church and state, and persecution will come when we have that. Okay, but and that's what they did anciently in the Dark Ages. But so we have sun darkened, moon turned to blood, peace and safety, military drill, marriage, a new definition of it that's an abomination, the Pope in Congress, and also the Pope went to the UN the following day. This is number 7. Christ is in heaven seeking a heavenly kingdom. His adversary on earth is seeking an earthly kingdom. And I believe that war is on soon, basically. He ought not to be standing there. So that's 7 signs. Actually, there's an 8th that I could mention. 2015 was also the year that the San Andreas movie was released. And a lot of times these movies have some truth to it. I believe that the vision Ellen White had of the earthquake in the day of the Lord, and by the way, that phrase is often misunderstood as the second coming you see here in this magazine that I got from an independent ministry. But I called them and they later agreed with me, yes, the day of the Lord is not the second coming. If the book of Joel has more references to day of the Lord than any other book, but no second coming in the book of Joel. And so we should be able to understand that it's an end time period. 7 years, I think, with Joseph, 7 years of famine. Nebuchadnezzar ate grass for 7. They went around Jericho 7 days blowing trumpets, a trumpet each day for 6 days, like the 6 trumpets in Revelation 8 and 9. And then the 7 last plagues in the 7th year in Revelation 16. So it's a type of things to come. So I believe that time, those end time periods of the last 7 will begin in 2023, because what I've just shared with you, those signs, they can't be immediate, because Christ, when he said, when you see these things, flee, and woe to them with child, or them that give suck, in verse 17 of Mark 13, it takes 2 to 3 years to get pregnant, have a baby, nurse and wean the baby, and even then it's still trouble raising kids. Woe to them with child. And so I believe God in his mercy has given us an 8-year warning, just like Joseph gave a warning in Egypt to Pharaoh. He said there's going to be 7 good years and then 7 bad. Well, stop and think about it. It was an 8-year warning then. The bad years started in the 8th year after 7 good ones. And if you understand also the chiastic structure of the Bible, chiastic means mirror image. In Genesis, you have a paradise, and man crawls into sin. Christ created for 6 days and rested on the 7th day. It was a Sabbath day in retrospect, but in the 4th commandment says, for in 6 days God made heaven and earth, rested the Sabbath. So also we see a chiastic structure where in this end time period, Christ will mediate for 6 years, but he will cease mediation in the 7th year, a sabbatical year. And we know the sabbatical years, okay? We have them 77s from Daniel 9th chapter. Historic dates of 457, 34 AD fit perfectly well. And if you extend 34 AD to the present time, we find that 2015 was a sabbatical year, and that makes 7 years later, 2022, a sabbatical year. I got a letter from a Jew in Israel wanting to plant fruit trees. He wanted a donation. He says, next year, 2022, we can't plant. It's a sabbatical year. So after that, if the end times come in a way that the mediation ceases on a sabbatical year, it will begin in 2023. And this is underscored in the book of Joel, chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. You tell your children, that's 2, let them tell their children, and them another generation, 4 generations. And then cankerworm, palmer worm, locust, and caterpillar, 4 generations of insects. And what the locust leaves, the caterpillar eats. There's nothing left. I'm afraid to say this, but I'm bold enough to say it, that I don't believe the General Conference will be existing long after 2023. I think it's over for them when the buildings come down in Loma Linda and they are $1.2 billion in debt. It's over. And I think people need a warning there, and that's why I've come to this area. And if you know people, send me an email. My email is primary is ruling, RUHLING 7 @juno.com. I'll put the link below this, or call them. Tell them to look at this video. We need to get ready and stop fooling around. A week ago had a nice conversation with someone who I highly esteem in leadership and in prophecy and in liberty, and he said that when he confronted leaders of the church about what happened when the Pope went to Congress and nothing was said, they admitted they were so stuck and struck with women's ordination that they just missed it. Okay, well, nothing was said. We failed to be Protestants when we should have been, and I think big trouble coming. So please like this, share it with everybody you know, and if you can help me with people, specific contacts in the Southern California area, maybe they, when God saw man lost in sin, he didn't just send us a get well card. He came in person, and I'm here in person to, in this video high-tech period, we don't always get it, and emails mean nothing. Many of them aren't even opened, but I think we need to knock on some doors and say, how are you, and please take a few minutes, because soon it may be too late. And so thank you for this thing. I look forward to your thoughts, and please share it with others. For Christ's sake, God bless you.